All right, so let's talk macros. I've done a couple of these. I've done them generally as Facebook Lives, but I'm going to do this one a little bit different. I'm going to do this one on here so that I can also do a share screen and I can draw some things out for everybody. But first, I want to kind of give you my background, right? So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Brent Shaw, and I have been a avid studier of nutrition for a significant portion of my life. When I was in college, I minored in nutrition, and so I've always had it as part of my world. I have done all kinds of things from weightlifting. I've done a lot of endurance activities. I did some boxing for a period of time. I've completed an Ironman. I've done a lot of a full distance Ironman. I've done a lot of smaller distance triathlons. And I've coached quite a few people with a significant amount of success. And what I have found is that macro tracking for weight wellness is the single most effective way to find success. Now, and when I say weight wellness, I'm talking weight gain, weight loss, weight maintenance, whatever it is you want to do. This idea of macro tracking is seriously the easiest thing to do, and it's easy, okay? And when I say easy, I'm talking like really not difficult to do, okay? There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can download MyFitnessPal or any other macro tracking app, and macros are carbs, proteins, and fats, okay? That's what macros are. Macronutrients is what that's short for. Micronutrients, different animal. Macronutrients, carbs, fats, proteins. When you consume something, you're consuming carbs, fats, or proteins, and that's what you're getting, okay, when it's a food source. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish during the consumption of that. Now, when you consume protein or carbs or fats, it's going to be processed by your body, and it's going to be utilized for what you need it for. And if your body doesn't need it, it's going to be converted and stored. That's what happens. So I don't care what you're eating, you can get fat on, or you can get unwell consuming any macro. So too much protein, too much carb, too much fat, you can have issues no matter which one that is, right? Now, it's important to realize that a balanced nutritional intake is going to be more sustainable than trying to do something where you're sitting there going, I'm going to have low fat, low carb, low protein, whatever. It just in long term doesn't work, okay? So what you need to realize is that as you consume food and as you decide what you want, I'm going to give you this example. You look on the scale and you see a number that you don't like. Okay, so let's just use the example of weight, of you're overweight of what you want to be. So you see this number on the scale and you go, okay, this number I don't like. So what do you do? You go to the doctor, you go to Dr. Google, whatever, and I want to lose weight. Most of the time you're told to decrease the amount of food that you take in and increase the need for nutrition, and then take in less nutrition. So that's like saying, get in your car, drive further than you normally drive, get there faster, and use less fuel. It doesn't make any sense. You're taking a nutritionally deficient body, you're reducing the amount of nutrition by lowering the intake, and then you're increasing the body's need for nutrition, and then you're wondering why it doesn't work. So here's what happens in most time when you do a diet, typical diet. You've got your metabolism is directly related to the amount of muscle that you have. Metabolism, calories, and the macro makeup of those calories are going to be your most significant factors for weight wellness, okay? I talk to a lot of people that say, okay, I'm only using 1,500 calories. Fantastic, you're doing 1,500 calories. But if 80% of your calorie intake is carbohydrates, don't expect to see better muscle. It's not going to happen, right? It just doesn't work that way. So what happens for most people is they cut down on the amount of weight of food that they eat, so their body loses weight, and they're losing weight, but they're also losing muscle because they're not taking in the right amount of protein and they're not taking the right amount of macros in order to make sure that they maintain lean muscle. So as that body weight drops and as that magic number shows up, what ends up happening is you don't really necessarily feel that well. You might feel okay, but your number has dropped, but so has your metabolism, because you've slowed down the amount of calories that you've taken in. And you've also, by slowing down the amount of calories, you've probably also decreased the amount of protein that you're taking in. And so you've lost even more muscle. Now you go back to eating those 1,500 calories again, but your metabolism is way down here. So what happens? We get fatter faster, right? Because our metabolism is slowed, our natural metabolism, which is the biggest consumer of fat, if you will, of energy. And so because that muscle has dropped way down here, you're not successful when you go back to eating your normal calorie intake, a natural normal calorie intake. So with that, I'm going to give you the next level. Okay, so I want you to take a look at this and I want you to consider this. Now, for those of you who are, who've been coaching this for a long time or have this dialed in at a different level, I get it. The numbers that I'm getting ready to show are a guideline for the average person, okay? And the average person, I'm talking about somebody that maybe works out 1, 2, 3 times a week, maybe doesn't work out at all. The average person, somebody who's, 10, 15, 20 or more pounds overweight. Now, some of these numbers get skewed when you are seriously overweight. I'm going to use the word obese, but if you're seriously overweight, obese, then you're going to need to probably get with me or get with somebody that understands macros a little bit better than you do and have a real conversation about that. Because if you're seriously obese, then you most likely have a seriously jacked up metabolism, meaning that it's not going to process and you're going to have to do things to spike it into where it's going to work better. So all of these things are going to be important. Same thing goes if you're a lot older, then some of these numbers get a little bit skewed. Or if you've got somebody who's a real young person, like let's say under 20, right? Because their metabolisms generally, especially a young athlete, generally their metabolisms are really fast. But for the rest of us, right, the rest of the people that are in that, that normal, I'm getting outside of normal. You get in that age range where you're just active, you're daily active, you're doing your thing, you're going to work, all that kind of stuff. These numbers are going to work for you. Okay, so that's just my little disclaimer. All right, so share screen here. And here we go. Let's see. Okay, so here's what happens. You take your existing body weight, right? So take your body weight. I'm drawing here with my fingers, so you have to apologize. Body weight, right? And I'm going to use the example of a certain person that weighs 150 pounds. Okay, so they weigh 150 pounds. You're going to add a 0 to your existing body weight, 1,500. So in this particular case, 1,500. This is about approximately the amount of calories that this person burns per day just living their life, doing their thing, going through the world, right? This is, again, a general rule, but it works for most people. Now, if this person happens to be a female versus a male, you can adjust this down by probably around 10%, right? So let's say this is a female, I'm going to adjust that down by around 10%. So instead of 1,500, I'm going to say what's 100, that's 150 less. So we're someplace around 1,400, I don't know, 1,350 calories, right? So about 1,350 if you're female, right? So you take this number times 10%, right? So you get 10% of that number. Okay, so that's going to give you about 1,350 calories for a female, or a male is around 1,500. And again, this is your base metabolic rate, what people refer to as their BMR. So now you've got this 1,350 number, right? I hate working with numbers that aren't round, so I'm gonna stick. Yeah, that's right. I'll still go with it, right? So 1,350. Why is my screen not working? Sorry, guys. Clear all drawing. Okay, so you've got somebody that's, gosh darn, I hate this. Still not working. Sorry, guys. There we go. So you got 1,350. So you're 1,350 pound person, or 1,315 calorie base, right? Now let's say this person wants to lose some weight, right? So they're a 150 pound person. They want to lose some weight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say take this number, take this 1350, and take this times 80%, so times 0.8, right? So 1350 times 0.8, 0, and I'm going to do long math here, 0, 4, 24, 28, 8, 2, 8, 9, 10. So around 1,080 calories a day, right? So this is going to put this person at, they should consume, if they're wanting to lose weight, someplace around 1,080 calories. Now, I'll give you my caveat. I never tell anybody to go initially below 1,200. Again, there might be some issues. There might be some situations where that's necessary. But if your number lands below 1,200, just stick with 1,200 initially, okay? If your goal is weight loss, you should be able to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week, okay? 1 to 2 pounds per week by following this rule, okay? So again, I'm giving some rough numbers. Again, these can vary, but in this particular person's case, someplace around 150-pound person, male or female, someplace around 1,200 calories is going to get you there. Now, if you weigh more, then you're going to adjust that, do your same math. If you weigh less, again, you're going to have to adjust, but don't go below 1,200. So again, real quick, just to recap, you take the person's body weight, and add a 0, okay? Then if you're female, take that number times 10%, so 0.10, and then you're going to subtract that from that number, right? So that's going to, again, 150, right? Add a 0, take that times 10%. That's going to give you 100. It's going to give you 150. So you're going to subtract 150 from 1,500. Okay, that's how I came up with the 1350. Right. So just know that that's what it is. Okay. Now, once you establish your recommended calories, okay, so let's clear this again. So once you establish your recommended calories, and your recommended calories, let's stick with 1,200, okay? So recommended calories at 1,200, you're going to take and you're going to divide that into protein. So I want you to be at 40% protein. Again, this is very general, but it will work for 99% of the population, 95% of the population, right? Can follow this rule. 40% protein, 30% carbs, and 30% fats, okay? Now, the great thing about this is if you don't like math, download MyFitnessPal. That will save you a lot of effort if you'll just download MyFitnessPal. You won't have to do all the math. MyFitnessPal is free. You're going to need to adjust the macros though, because on the, and you don't have to upgrade, you don't need to get the bonus plan. There's a way to get in there and adjust the macros, because the default macros in MyFitnessPal, again, my opinion, they're set up for what I would coach somebody who's an endurance athlete, because they're set up at 50% carbohydrates. They're set up at 30% fats and only 20% protein. Way off the mark as far as I'm concerned for, again, 95% of the population. So 40% protein, 30% carbs, and 30% fats. Okay? That's where you need to be set up at. Now, okay, Brent, what does that really mean? How do I make this work? Again, download MyFitnessPal, and then you can build your day before you eat it. So if you're doing this tonight or you're doing this right now, whatever day this is for you, when you're watching this, I want you to download MyFitnessPal, adjust your macros to 40, 30, 30, and then I want you to build tomorrow's meal plan. Okay? Now, tomorrow's meal plan, what does it look like? Well, I'm going to recommend that you start off with your Ionics and you do your shake, right? So you're going to do your Ionics, you're going to do your shake, and then after you do your Ionics and you do your shake, then you're going to have your calorie intake. Well, a shake is 240. I don't know why these little slashes keep showing up. Your shake is 240 calories. I think the Ionics is 30 calories. I believe that's right. So you're at 270 calories for breakfast. Okay. Now, if you do another then you're going to go ahead and build your lunch, right? Because you're going to put your primaries in first. So now you're going to build your lunch, and you're going to have another shake, 240 calories, okay? 240 calories and 270 calories, right? Now you're at 7, 11, 6, 500. So you're at 510 calories. So you're at 510 calories, and you've got your two main meals in. Now you're going to add in your dinner, and you're going to add in your 2 snacks, right? So build these in. You're also going to be able to watch your macros develop as you put these things in. Again, it's super easy to do it this way. And if you buy a canister of the IsaPro, which is just our straight whey protein, then that becomes super flexible, because 1 scoop of IsaPro and 1 scoop of Isoline can improve your macros. 2 scoops or 1 or 2 scoops of IsaPro before you go to bed can increase your protein intake. So if you need to adjust your protein intake, because that's where most people are going to fail, is at protein intake, you're going to find that if you do it this way, if you add this protein in, you're going to have better success just by having the IsaPro. Now, the next thing, it's super important to realize this. For all of those of you that if you've made it this far in the video and you're going, well, I just rather eat my food, right? I just rather eat whatever I'm going to have. I want to go to the grocery store and get it. That's fantastic. But if you are trying to hit, let's say your protein intake's 150 grams. Let's say you figured out 40% of your intake needs to be 150 grams of protein. If you need 150 grams of protein, sorry about that. If you need 150 grams of protein, then 150 grams of protein is almost 2 pounds of flesh. So 2 pounds of chicken, 2 pounds of beef, 2 pounds of pork, 2 pounds of whatever you're trying to eat, you're going to need about 2 pounds of that. Now, if you're vegan or vegetarian, then you're going to have to adjust that as well, because you're going to include, if you're a vegetarian, you can do eggs and different things like that. But the point is it's a lot. It takes a significant amount to get to 150 grams of protein. That's why you see people eating regularly when they are when they're trying to follow their macros. But I'm telling you, if you hit a plateau, track for 2 weeks. And if you eat something that you shouldn't eat, track it. If you drink something you probably shouldn't be drinking, track it. That means a glass of wine, a can of beer, bottle of beer, whatever, a vodka. If you're drinking something, add it. If you sneak a bite of your kid's, Reese's peanut butter cup, put it down. You can put smaller amounts. You don't have to eat the whole thing. You can still put half of a Reese's peanut butter cup. It'll take that. Those are the types of things, though, that are going to help you be successful. So if you hit a plateau, track. If you don't think that Isagenix works, track it and send me your screenshots. I promise you we will figure out why it's not working. All right? So if you have any questions, please feel free to comment below this post, wherever this is posted at, probably one of the Facebook pages. Feel free to comment in there, and I'm happy to help with anything that you can figure out. All right? Have a fantastic day, everybody.